Hello everyone, this is ATMAN'S and his online spiritual academy, which I call Advaita Atma Yoga Academy. Today I would like to speak about the two main aspects of the ego. Ego is very complicated element, psychological element. It is part of the mind. It is the center of mind, and I remind you that the essential nature of mind is consciousness. But the center of the mind is ego, in the sense that the ego plays the role of agent. I do, I think, I feel, I perceive. Everything we do in our life and we experience of our life, the center is this ego, which is mostly, primarily identified with the physical form. So that's why, therefore, we feel the body is myself. This body, physical body, is myself. And this body has a mind to think, to feel, and an intellect to reason and decide, etc. The center of the mind is the ego. And the ego is very multi-faced element, psychological element. And today we'll speak about the two main aspects. The higher aspect, which is the sattvic one, because it's related to the sattva quality of life, which is the quality of light, of peace and love, intelligence, of joy, happiness, etc. And there is the lower aspect of ego. These aspects are not two different egos. It's the higher and the lower aspect of the same ego. The lower aspect is rajasic and tamasic, because it is influenced and operates under the influence, the ego, the lower ego, of rajas and tamas qualities. Rajas is the quality of dynamic quality of life. It is energy, passion, movement, extroversion, and tamas is the dark quality of life, especially related to our psychology, is the quality of unconsciousness, of ignorance, of identification, of perversions, inertia, idleness, etc. So the lower ego is influenced, or it is constituted by the lower qualities of life, rajas and tamas, and functions the ego under the influence of these qualities. This lower ego, I could say, it is like the rust on iron, on a metal, because it is not something natural in us. The higher ego, it is. The lower ego, it is not. It's something that has been developed under certain conditions, and is something intrusive in our psyche, parasite, like a virus. And although the natural state of ego is the sattvic one, because of some things, some happenings, have been developed in our psyche, the lower aspect of ego, which is a bunch of tendencies and functions which make our life limited. We live a limited life and distorted life and pain and misery. Happiness and joy and love have nothing to do with the lower aspect of the ego, but with the higher aspect of the ego, the sattvic one. All higher positive qualities, emotional qualities, and mental, intellectual qualities are related with the higher aspect of the ego. And on the contrary, all the lower aspects of our psyche, all defects or weaknesses or egoistic tendencies, bad habits and patterns and programming is related to the lower aspect of the ego. And there is no other way to get free from this lower aspect of the ego than to eliminate all these things, all these tendencies, conditioning. It is not only to go beyond, to transcend. We have, if you want to live in the highest possible state of consciousness, that means in oneness with our essential divine nature. We must transcend the higher aspect of the ego, but we have to eliminate the lower aspect of the ego, which is, as I said, intrusive. It is a parasite that has been developed. It's not something natural in us. Anger, fear, jealousy, envy, avarice, pride, hatred, impatience, likes, dislikes, dissatisfaction are psychological parasites in our psyche, and all these are aspects, tendencies of the lower ego. It is not something, they are not something different than the ego. Anger is only the ego expressed as anger. The lower ego itself expresses as anger. And many teachers say, even famous, our ego identifies with anger. No, ego is the anger. Then we identify with the anger and we take them as ourselves. We take ourselves as the ego itself, which is identified with the body. That's why we feel and believe that we are this body, mind, me entity. Ego, I have spoken about this in previous short videos. Ego is the factor of identifications. So the ego makes us identify with the ego itself and the body as well, and all tendencies, mental, emotional, intellectual tendencies. And we take them as ourselves or part of ourselves. All these things have to do with the lower aspect of ego, which I call rajasotamasic. While the higher aspect of ego, it's not a problem. It's a functional instrument of the consciousness, which is what we really are. We need an instrument. Consciousness needs an instrument. We are consciousness to function in the world, and this instrument is the higher aspect of the ego. And all qualities, positive or divine qualities, love, joy, happiness, creativity, can be expressed fully through the sattvic aspect of the ego. So simple. And the higher aspect of the ego, the sattvic one, is related with what teachers, great teachers or famous teachers in the West say as I am or I exist. I am is not consciousness. I will speak about I am or I exist in another short video. Today I will only refer that this superior or higher ego is related with what teachers say refer to I amness or I am or I exist. And through this I amness we can enter to the supreme consciousness or absolute consciousness, which is beyond any sense of individuality or personality, whatever form, physical, energetic form. So we have one ego who has two main aspects and much more aspects, but the main aspect is the sattvic superior or higher ego, the sattvic ego, and the lower one, which is the rajasotamasic ego, which has to do with all our problems. It seems that is good because through this ego we experience pleasant and pleasurable experience, because desire for pleasure is related to this lower ego. And so we feel that it is something good, but these pleasures give us a lot of pain because this ego is the one that makes us attached to the experiences. And there is no freedom from attachment and identification without eliminating this lower aspect of the ego. The weaker becomes this ego, the more the power, we could say, of attachment and identification diminishes. Ego is a field of energy, of vital psychic energy. The more this field of energy is diminished, the more attachment, desires for worldly success and pleasure are diminished. So simple, they go together. Desire for a worldly success of any kind, for money, fame, name, wealth, whatever it may be, and desire for sex, for gluttony, for whatever, are related to the lower aspect of ego. Of course, there are also sattvic aspect related to these pleasures, like sexual pleasure. There is the sattvic pleasure. But it is contaminated, we could say, this desire for sacred sex, we could say tantra, by the rajas quality. So to experience some pleasures of life in the sattvic way, we need to eliminate rajas and tamas. Tamas are related to sex perversion and rajas passion. To experience pleasure, sexual pleasure in a sattvic way, which is in love and union, soul union, mind union, emotional union, energetic union, we need to get rid of the tamas and rajas qualities. The more the sattva quality of life prevails in our mind and psychological instrument in general, the more we experience peace, love, and light, and contentment, and joy, harmony, and the more prevail in our psyche rajas and tamas qualities, we experience identifications, attachment, passion, anger, fear, impatience, disappointment, grief, etc. This is the nature of these qualities. They have a certain vibrational frequency. So we cannot expect having rajas and tamas qualities live in happiness. It's impossible. We can say, but we have moments of happiness. This happens because at those moments, during those moments, sattva prevails. The three qualities exist in our mind, sattva, rajas, and tamas. But in the mind of the vast majority of people, prevail rajas and tamas. And there is only 3 to 5% of sattva. So there are moments of sattva which are very little. Most of the time we experience rajas and tamas, sometimes mixed with sattva. Always there is a mixture. When are in operation, these gunas can operate 2 gunas together, rajas and sattva together, or rajas and tamas together, mostly. There is a possibility tamas and sattva, but mostly rajas connects with tamas and connects with sattva. So there is possibility to have this kind of experiences. But most of the time we experience rajas and tamas. And we move between them, and we have, how we call this, moments of sattvic experiences, joy, happiness, contentment, love, we have an harmonious relation with others, etc., etc. But this is not these are not the moments that prevail in our life. So we have to finish here this presentation. The higher one ego, which has the higher aspect and the lower aspect. The higher aspect is related to sattva quality of life, gunas, and also related to the sense of this sense. I exist or I am. And the lower aspect of the ego, which is related to the rajas and tamas qualities of life, gunas, and which is the problem in us, and we have to eliminate this lower part of ego from our psyche. I wish you peace, love, and light, and I wish you freedom from this lower ego and realize your true nature, which is peace, love, light, plenitude, and peace and bliss.